Hello and welcome, my fellow nerds, back to Nerd In. I am Christian, and I'll be your host for the evening, and tonight we are going to be talking some business. I promise that joke will make sense in a second. Just roll the intro. And before we get this video really started, here is the crisp high five to Sir Bad Potato for getting 6 out of my top 10 games correct. So here you go. There's your high five. Enjoy. Let's get into the video. Yes, we finally get to talk about this game. We are bringing to the table this time some Honey Buzz, as I'm sure you can already tell by the title and by the amazing joke that I left you at the beginning. This is the deluxe edition, but I'm not really going to be taking that too much into account coming into this review. So let me put this on the table, and I'll give you guys a quick overview before I go into the cons and the pros about this game, why I like it and what I don't like about it. And then I'll give you my overall rating at the end, so stay around for that. Let's go ahead and get this bad boy open. Alright, so to get things started, in Honey Buzz, you are all running different bee colonies that have learned economics. So, with that, you are going to be expanding your hive to be able to make more honey that you can then sell off to the market and fulfill orders for different wildlife critters. And the way you go about doing this is by sending out these worker beeples to locations on the board that will allow you to pick up these hex tiles that you can then add to your hive, expanding it. So when you add a tile, you just need to make sure that a few things line up, that only yellow faces will touch yellow faces. You can see there that there's orange, yellow, and white sides to these tokens. Only yellows can touch yellows. Whites cannot touch anything. Oranges cannot touch anything. Those are to form the hexes in between them, that when you slide a piece in there, if you complete a hex, you will see a shape being formed out of these colors. And you have a little reference sheet to tell you what type of honey that will be able to make, and what type of nectar you'll be able to put there so that you can make that honey. And then, of course, on the backside of it, it also gives you a description of all of the actions on the board so that you don't forget anything at any point in time. There is 6 in total. You have 1 for making a baby bee, 1 that is a wild action that could be one of the other 5, but if you pick up one of those tiles, it's going to cost you 5 coins as well as your workers. There's 1 that gives you 5 coins. There's 1 that allows you to forage and explore part of this board. There's 1 that allows you to produce honey on your board. And then finally, the last one is going to market so that you can sell off your honey and fulfill orders. So at the start of the game, everyone is going to have at least 1 worker beeple, but the later turn players will end up having extra as well as extra coins to start off with. And you're going to be sending these out 1 at a time on your turn to collect a tile, and then you only take any of the other actions whenever you actually fill up a hex, and you will take any actions that are in a circle around that hex. So there's a little bit of careful planning to it to make sure that the right effects that you need go off when you need them to. And you can acquire more of these workers by, again, using that baby bee action, which allows you to take another worker beeple from your supply and put it at the top of the main board where you can collect it later to add to your workforce. Now, when it comes to claiming these actions, if there's nobody there, you're set to go. You only need to send 1 beeple, and you can take that tile. But if there's already someone there, and there's, say, 1 worker beeple there, you now have to send 2 to be able to take that action, causing a beeline, as it were. This game and rulebook are rife with a lot of puns, and that's part of why I love it, but that's neither here nor there. The game itself is where the real fun is. So you create a beeline, and then it just keeps progressing from there. So say there's a beeline of 2 different people that are there, so you have 1 bee and then a stack of 2 bees. If you want to go there, you now have to send 3 workers. And this becomes very important because once you send out a worker, you don't get them back until you take a recall turn. And a recall turn is when you literally just take all of your worker beeples, all of the ones that you have sent out, and then any baby bees you have in the nest, and you get to take them back to your play area to be able to use later. After that, the only other thing you get to do is move your other bee on the foraging area. You get to move that 1 space for free. You don't collect anything, it just helps you move around so you can get set up where you need to be. So recall turns really don't end up benefiting you a whole lot, so that's why forming beelines can be very devastating, because if you run out of workers but you really need to take that next action to get going, you can't, because if you don't have any workers, you have to do a recall turn. You can choose to do one earlier, but you have to do one if you are completely out of workers. So that can end up slowing down your pace and putting you a little behind and giving others time to catch up. But you do have a total of 10 worker beeples, so the more that you get out, the quicker that you get them out, the better off you're going to be in most cases. That's not always the strategy, but I have found that to be a very important one for this game. And all of the actions have so much relevance to them, but it's all in the intricacies of how you build out your hive and plan your actions accordingly. You can even go several turns without taking a single hive action if you plan things out right. You can set it up to where placing 1 or 2 tiles will set off this big chain of effects to go off all at once that creates this cascading effect of just insanity. But with this, as you are playing the game and you're filling out orders, taking different actions, say you're foraging, you send out the bee that's down here on the main board, you send that, you get 1 free move with it, and if you want to move any more spaces than that, it's 2 extra coins per move. So whatever tile that you land on this spot of the board is one that you can pick up. But in the base game, you can only pick it up if you actually have a hex that matches its shape. And you can look on the tile and on your hex to be able to reference that by looking at that ring that's around it. So say, for example, if I had the wildflower token here, this is orange all the way around. So I want a hex that has nothing but orange around it. Is simply just built with 3 tiles. It's the easiest one to acquire, but it's also worth the least at the start of the game. Now, I say at the start of the game because when you sell honey to this market, it doesn't matter how much. You can sell 1, you can sell 3, you can sell 7. But once you're done, that corresponding honey, whichever one you sell, is going to go down by 1 after you do that. So its value is going to drop by 1, meaning it's going to be not as worthwhile later. So if a bunch of people are selling out on one type of honey, it's going to be worth nothing by the time you get to the market to sell yours. Now, when it comes to order cards, that doesn't affect that at all. Those are completely separate. But the game is triggered by both of these. If any 4 of the 5 values on the market board drop to their lowest possible value, or if 2 of the 3 order stacks are completely empty, the game ends and you go into endgame scoring, which is just counting up your coins as well as your contests. Speaking of contests, that's something we also haven't gotten into yet. There are 3 Queen's Contest cards that are drawn at the beginning of the game of 3 different colors. You're going to likely have 2 races and a highest number type of deal. There's varying types of contests, and it's going to change from game to game. But the race ones are just whoever is first to accomplish that task will get first place, second, and then third, depending on your player count, of course. And then there is the most of category, and what I have on the board right now, it's the most nectar. So at the end of the game, the person who has the most nectar on their player board will get first place, and then second, third. And they give you extra coins, which gives you extra victory points, putting you ahead in the game. So there's a lot that you have to work on. You don't have to worry about just selling stuff to the market and making money there. You also have to worry about fulfilling these contest cards to get extra scoring points there, because usually there's upwards of 45 to 60 points right there on the line. So it's not something you can just ignore. So I'll start off the actual review part of this going over what I don't like about this game. And just like Libertalia, there's not really a whole lot for me to say bad about this game. Again, I have the deluxe version, so the upgraded components do help that a little bit. But I feel like even just playing the normal version with the normal cardboard components is really not a problem. I mean, you still get these beautiful gummy honey, beautiful gummy honey tokens. That's an oddly weird tongue twister. But components aside, I'm not going to go too much into that this game because I think it's a little less relevant for Honey Buzz than it was for Libertalia. The only thing that I feel could be a little bit lacking with this game is the lack of an actual player board. You just kind of play on the table. Now you can get around this. I would definitely recommend using playmats for this game to build your tiles on because they shuffle and slide and get bumped very easily. So that is something to be careful for. I'm constantly having to fiddle with mine and fix it and make sure that everything lines up right. And of course, once you take one of your nectar tiles and drop it in, you go at risk of bumping it there as well and causing more issues. So you do need to be a little bit careful with that. I guess the only other small nitpick I have about this game is that sometimes there's not enough of these 20 tokens, and a lot of times I end up getting at least over 50, if not over 100 points by the end of a game. So more of these might be nice, so I don't have to use a bunch of smaller ones, but just like I mentioned in Libertalia, I do also have my Roxy Iron Clays now, so it's not as big of an issue. If I really get to that point, I can switch over to these and be fine, but overall, that's not that big of an issue either. Most of my complaints with this game are, again, just very nitpicky. I don't really have any bad things to say about this. It's just a wonderfully delightful experience. The biggest thing I would have to say about it is that I'm just sad I don't get it to my table more often because it is such a gorgeously cozy and addicting game. Like, everything here is just laid out so nice. The board is very open, but it's also full at the same time. Everything makes sense. There's not too much to understand. Once you get a simple grasp of the game, you can really just start clicking away and just enjoying it. I love the fact that it has a solo mode. It's actually probably one of my favorite solo modes in board games because you're not competing against anything. It's not a win or lose. You're just working for a title. And I guess in the solo mode, they do give you an option to have a win or lose option if you don't meet a certain threshold on the contests. So you can, like, set your difficulty, say, like, hey, I want to get this threshold, and then if you don't meet it, you lose. If you get past it, you win. It's not really that crazy, but then after that, you're just competing for a high score and a title. I mean, it's the nature of cozy games, and I really do appreciate that. And the workers in this they're normally based off of cards, so you get these little drone bees, which might not be actual beebles in the normal game. I'm not too sure on that. But you get these that block up certain tile areas for you to go. Like, you don't even get to beeline. You just can't go there in general until they move. There is a way to play these that are dictated by cards, so it's still completely random. It just doesn't feel as good to me. I like using the drone dice, which sometimes means that the bees don't move at all because I can just end up rolling the same space that they're on, or roll a do not move action, and it or they can even just affect the market. So I quite like these dice for that it's not like, oh, I know what's already in the discard pile, so I know I don't have to worry about that being an issue. These are completely random and will give you repeats all the time. And for that reason, I like those, but again, this is just one of those solo modes that I really enjoy and can have a lot of fun with. So even though I don't get it to my playgroups table a lot, I do get it to at least my own and be able to enjoy it on my own, which I very much love. It's simple. It is a medium weight game by class, but it's on the lighter end of medium weights. I would classify this as a next level game, so you've got some people that are basically non-gamers, but you've introduced them to a couple of lighter games to try breaking them into the hobby. Now you want to start working their way up and getting them into the bigger boys, and I would say this kind of fits that role perfectly. It's just meaty enough to give you that depth of strategy. It does make you think about your next move and how you want to take your next move, but you're also not getting into the analysis paralysis stage, so you can still just be able to play and have a good time, and it's usually fairly snappy. There might be a couple of moments of hesitation where you're like, am I sure I want to do that? Is this the order that I want to do that? Is this where I want to place it? But usually it's like less than a minute to a turn. Once people learn anyways. During the learning stage, you can definitely expect it to take a little bit longer, but still not even that bad. And I love that. It's one of those earlier games that I picked up, and I'm very glad that I did, because this really helped breach me into a lot of those higher level games. I'm still working on getting into more heavyweight games, but I also really enjoy stuff like this because it's just a cozy time. It's something I can bust out and just play for an hour and know that I have something to do for that hour that's going to entertain me and keep me focused and engaged. At this point, like, these types of games, I can't even have something on in the background. At most, I can just play, like, bland lo-fi music or something. So I have some noise, but I can't play anything that I'm going to focus on because I'm not even going to acknowledge it. Everything is going to be on this. I cannot rip my attention away when I have a game like this on my table. And this one especially, because it is just, again, so adorable but so fun. And I will state as well that I am a huge worker placement fan. And this is like the perfect way to operate worker placement in my mind. So I absolutely love that fact. And as far as the market goes, I love the idea of it that you're constantly decreasing the value as you're flooding the market with these different honeys and as well pollen. It's just really cool to be able to have that end game trigger staring you down. You can see exactly when this game is going to end. And having that foresight really makes it a lot easier to say, oh, I need to get moving on this strategy right now. I need to get this done. And there's a lot of ways to be able to just plan ahead, see what's coming, and know how to deal with it. And for that, I love it. Now, if you get into this game, if you find yourself playing it, testing it out on BGA or in person or whatever, and you've done all the research, which, by the way, if you want to know how to save money on board games, I have a whole video for that up there if you want to go check that out. If this is a game that interests you enough to the point that you buy it, I will let you know right now that there are currently 2 expansions for this game. One of them is only a mini expansion, which did come with my version of the game, and that is the Honeypot expansion, which allows you to get around certain game mechanics, and that did include extra dice for it. But you also get these jars where you're arriving on tiles that you can't do anything with yet. You can still take that tile and then store it in your pot to put on your board later. You can only store one at a time, but just having that extra space and that wiggle room to be like, I know I'm going to need this, I just don't have room for it right now. Having that ability is very nice. So that's a very simple, minor expansion, but it does add a decent bit to the game that I think is worth it. The other one is the Fall Flavors expansion, which I haven't gotten myself yet, but I really, really want to. It's very high up on my list of next items to get, and the Fall expansion is going to add new modules to this game, which can be mixed and matched. You can play with just one at a time, you can throw a couple in together, and it's just going to bring this whole game to the next level. So with those modules, you're looking at not so much a next level game, but you're looking at more of a true medium weight game to maybe closer to the medium high range. And that level of expansion on a game this wonderful is definitely something I want. But the Fall Flavors expansion is pretty close to the same price as base Honey Buzz. So I would recommend starting off with the base game, getting time to enjoy it and love it, and then looking at doing the expansion. I wouldn't do both right out of the gate. I would make sure that this is a game you absolutely love as much as I do first, because there is a lot to just discover and enjoy in this base game alone. Again, for how simple it is, it really doesn't take too much effort to teach. I mean, the rulebook it does have a little bit of thickness to it, but that's mostly in the quality of the pages. This book just feels so nice. But it's only a 14-page rulebook, and that's including the advanced variant of the game, that's including the solo mode to the game, and it's including all of these pictures and diagrams to be able to show you how things work. I mean, they really didn't just like fill this space up to the max. They gave you good size font, they gave you good ample pictures, plenty of puns, you have the quick overview and everything. This is one of my more preferred rulebooks because it was so easy for me to just get through and start playing. And that's an experience that I am always happy to pay for because it's so rewarding and it feels so nice. Now, if you want more reason to love this game, I mean, do you really need any? It's gorgeous, it's cozy, it's easy, it's thanky, it's pretty much everything that you could almost ever want in a board game. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to prefer different mechanisms. Like I said, I am a huge worker placement guy, so this game appeals to me very much. I recommend doing some more research into this game, watch some how to plays, things like that, learn more about it. But if this is your type of vibe, I highly recommend you look into it. Overall, I'm just going to give this game a flat-out 10 out of 10. There's no debating it for me. This is one of my favorite games of all time. If you watched my top 10 list, this was my number 2, and honestly, after reviewing this, I think it might go back to my number 1 spot because this game is just gorgeous. I can't get enough of it. It's always on my mind. Whenever someone asks for suggestions for board games or, asks me what I want to play, this is one of the first games that jumps on my mind, if not the very first game. I love it so much. The only downside is that it's 1 to 4 players. It doesn't go higher than 4. So if your group goes just a little bit above that, it's kind of out of the realm of possibility in most cases. But if that is your play group and you can get up to 4 players, or even if you're just playing by yourself, it's such a delightful game. I will never find myself not recommending it. So that's all I have for this review today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. If you've played this as well, give me like a mini version of your review. I love to hear what you guys think on these games. And yeah, again, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we hope you enjoy your stay, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.